What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the devlog. It's been about a week and a half since we last spoke. As of recording this, I uploaded my last devlog about 2 weeks ago, and I've been hard at work. Don't you worry. And we made a lot of progress, and I'm pretty happy with the progress that we did make. And I want to share that with you guys. So let's hop into day one. So this video is kind of like a mixed bag of things. I do have like a dev document that I'm like working off of, and I have like my planned lists of how I'm going about things written down. It does tend to change from time to time. So this video is a little bit of a mixed bag of different things. So, you know, starting off with day one, I was sitting there and I'm like, all right, well, you know, for this game, we need a dungeon. Like, how do I want the dungeon to work? And I honestly made no progress this day. The entire day, I'm just like, how do I make a dungeon? How do I want the dungeon to be made? Do I want it randomly generated? Do I want to go procedural generation, per the noise? I spent the day thinking about it, but I think I finally came to a conclusion of something I liked, and that's what day two was all about. Day two, I'm kind of putting together like templates for rooms, and basically the way I planned on making this dungeon was making templates of rooms and piecing them together within this square box and making a dungeon. So that's kind of what I'm doing on day two. I'm just making the templates for the room, and then in the next few days, I'll work on like actually making the code of placing these rooms down. So going on to day three, this is actually when we get a little bit sidetracked. I decided I'm just sick of looking at my character. We're getting the character art going. So I spent most of my day actually like working a little bit on the dungeon, but then I mainly just get into like animations and the character art itself, because I realized I just want to figure out what my main character is going to be. And I'm kind of going down this route of formal attire, almost like cyberpunk-ish. And I ended up making this character and I was pretty happy with it, but it almost feels a little bit too much like anime. I just like that vibe, and I've been getting some inspiration from online, and I think it's a good vibe, but I'm not too happy with where the character art is, so we're probably going to change it up. Definitely like kind of shape this a little bit better. He's a little bit wide, and I want to like slim him down a little bit, and he has some like tweaks and stuff that I can do, and some things I want to just get rid of. But for now, I think this is definitely like a nicer character to look at for the rest of the devlogs. Now, moving on to day four, you can kind of see what I was saying when this is a mixed bag of things that got done. This is the day where I actually finalized the art for the character. And by finalize, I mean I finished the 8 cycle facing rotations of the character. So I'm planning on doing an 8 cycle rotation where you can point the character in every direction: northeast, southwest, northwest, northeast, southeast, southwest. I think that's right. But yeah, so I basically want the character to be able to do that. So that means we have to make 8 art assets for every direction. And you know, that's going to add up as we like go along, but I think it's just worth it. I think it just looks a lot better. It feels a lot better. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get the art going. I also am ready to start working on like tile set of the dungeon and what the dungeon is going to look like. I'm just trying to like rough this out a little bit. I don't have the biggest idea of what I want the first floor to be. I'm thinking more like traditional dungeon, but I also have like these like rocky walls, like kind of like you're in a prison, like an old beat up dungeon. So I'm not exactly sure. I'm just kind of like trying some stuff out, seeing how I feel about it, and we're gonna go from there. All right, moving on to day 5. Day 5, I was working on some character animations, and I'm mainly just tweaking like a lot of small things, like making the character face the right way when I stop. Like if I'm walking up, I don't want him to go idle and face a different way. So it's mainly like a lot of that and just like tweaking it so it feels natural. And I also added some interactable hitboxes for the characters, so when he's facing the right way, he knows how to interact with an object that he's facing. That's pretty much all I did for that day. I didn't really get a lot of work done. And that means we're heading on to day 6. Day 6 was actually a fun day. This is the day where I was starting to get the art thing locked down for the asset of the dungeon. And I was actually really happy with the walls, and I started just branching out everything in the walls and making like a tile set for the dungeon. I also added some like other art aspects, and honestly to this day I still have like a few things to change, but I'm really happy with how these came out. And I even started a little bit of like on a floor, but I wasn't as happy with the floor, so I think for now we're just gonna end up getting some like placeholder art for the floor. On the side of this day, I ended up making like a level design document for how I want to make some of the rooms and make some of the dungeons. I've been thinking a lot about my dungeon spawner that I made on day 2, and I think I'm actually going to scrap it just entirely and completely, because I want to go for a different feel of rooms for the dungeon, and I don't think it would really line up and work with the system that I had. And I want to use the system, but I'm gonna like repurpose it for a different type of use. So we'll get to that in a different video, but for now we're gonna scrap the dungeon system and I'm gonna work on making some rooms, and we're still gonna go down this like template room sort of route that we've started with. Moving on to day 7, this is the day that I actually finished working on the 8-sided combat animations for the character. So combat has been a big, not really sure how it's gonna work yet for me, and I think this was the day where I kind of got over this lump and I finished the animations. So I was able to implement it into the game and start figuring out how it was gonna work animation wise. I mean, I'm kind of new to this animations, and I've spent a lot of this week just working with animations, not only like just making them, but also making them in Unity and just getting used to the system, the animation events and the code behind them and everything like that. But I did a lot more on day 7. I made a room. I started the floor art. I'm not too happy with this floor art though, so I will eventually scrap this and we'll come back to this in another video. But I also made some more art animations. I made some torch animations, and I made this nice little Cinemachine camera so it feels more natural with the camera following the character, and I think it just helps the vibe of the game. But this leads us on to day 8, one of our final days of this last 2 weeks of me working on this. I didn't get too much done on these last 2 days, but as for day 8, I started importing all the attacking and all the attack animations for the character, and I implemented the attack system. At least I started to. I have it so it's spawning the hitbox when the player actually goes to attack. There's still some things I want to change about it, but on for day 9, that's when we actually implemented our basic combat system. So the enemy has health, the player has health. It's very basic and it's buggy and it needs some work, but the player can actually kill the enemy now. And that's great. I mean, that's the whole point of the game. And it's taken me way too long to get to the point of the game because I've been focusing a lot on the art, and I know it's not the best thing to do, but it's also not the worst. I mean, this is my workflow, so this is what is important to me and important to how I work. But we finally got the combat system, and I'm very happy about that. This is what I've been working on for the past 2 weeks. We have a lot more planned for this game, so if you're enjoying this little behind the scenes process of what I've been working on, you know, stay tuned. And I hope you guys liked it. If you did, let me know in the comments, and see you guys later.